So yeah, appreciate you all for joining us for another event of CK Career Karma's AMA events. AMA events, for those of you that don't know, are Ask Me Anything. So Isaiah here will be answering your questions live, and he's actually gone through Pre-Hired's program. Isaiah, would you actually want to give people maybe a little bit of a background context, a bio of who you are, what you've been up to, and what you kind of want to cover tonight?
Yeah, sure. Can you guys hear me okay? Awesome. So my background is I went to college for Jewish studies, so nothing at all related to tech sales, obviously. I always thought I was going to work for nonprofit organizations for a long time. And I did donor development, which is kind of like sales, while I was working with those nonprofit organizations after college. And I really liked that. So I left the nonprofit world and went into kind of the sales world. And I worked at a pretty, what they call boiler room type of sales environment. For anyone who doesn't know the movie The Boiler Room, it's, just pretty high stakes. They're pressuring you like, all right, get on the phones, let's get on the phones, come on, make some dials, the famous smile and dial, line, stuff like that. So I did that for almost 4 years. And so that's what some of these awards actually behind me are from that company that I worked at. And so I really realized then that I loved sales, but I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. So I started doing research onto what in the marketplace is going to be around for a long time. What's a better type of sale? Started reading a lot of books on consultative selling, which is a different type of selling than, what you're used to, like that insurance guy just trying to, like trying to give you a discount and trying to close you on that phone call, right? More of really trying to figure out if it's actually going to be a good fit. And I liked that method better because I applied that method to that boiler room type of sales environment. And through doing research on what's next for me as I'm doing this sales position, I found Pre-Hire. And so I actually reached out to the CEO, Josh Jordan, spoke with one of their admissions advisors. And I was told, Isaiah, you don't even need Pre-Hire. That's what they told me. And that's something funny to hear from a company. You don't usually hear that. You don't need our product, right? And so, Josh gave me some tips and he's like, try it out. If you need help, come back to me. And so I went and fell flat on my face in interviews with tech companies because I just didn't understand a lot of terminology or the tools, and then how to apply those tools into daily use. And so I came back to Josh. I was like, hey, I got to join Pre-Hire. I don't know how to do this without your guys' help. So joined Pre-Hire, went through it in about 2 weeks, which is very quick. So that's not typical. And then I got hired actually that next week. So it only took me about a week to get hired to a company called Outreach. Worked there for a year as what they call a sales development representative. Outreach is now $1 billion company, which they call a unicorn, which is also why I have a unicorn up here, is because I worked at Outreach during the time when we took it to the unicorn status. So working at a company like that gave me a lot of skill sets to be able to come back to Pre-Hire then and really help revamp the process and kind of build out the mentorship process within Pre-Hire itself, which there wasn't that before. And so just really building that program to provide more support for the folks that are going through our program. And that's what I do now. I oversee that. I'm the head of what they call member success over at Pre-Hire. So that's kind of a long-winded explanation of where I come from. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's incredibly helpful, and enough context, I feel like, for some people to just start wondering about what sorts of questions they might have for you. I'll actually kick things off with a question of my own. And I loved our little jam session before this call. I know that we actually share a lot of similarities in terms of wanting to grow and really mentor and coach people. I'm really intrigued first what you felt like as coming from like a software development background, kind of looking towards different things that might bring you something different in your life, maybe wanting something more. Like, what do you feel about career transitions and being points of catalyst for people in their lives?
Yeah, so if you're trying to change your career, it's going to be one of the hardest things that you've ever done in your life because it's something you've never done before. And so that's what I always make sure our members understand, especially with the mentors that I oversee, is that, you know, this is going to be one of the hardest things you've ever done, but it's also going to be most rewarding thing that you've ever done too. And so I think that's really important to understand, is that that it's to understand first it is going to be a challenge, and that that's okay. That going through this challenge, you know, you're going to come out on the other side a better person, and you're going to come out on the other side with a career that you actually wanted, right? And so that's what drove me, really, is understanding that, you know, I loved coding, I enjoyed coding. I did a lot of what they call front end development, which if any of you guys know any languages in here, it's HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Python, stuff like that. I enjoyed it, but it kind of, it wasn't, didn't give me like a spark of energy, if that makes sense. I just knew that I always wanted to work in tech and do something in tech. That's what I always knew, but I didn't know you could do sales in tech. And that's where pre-hire kind of bridged that gap for me. It's like, oh, I can work for a tech company and do something I'm good at, like really good at, and help them drive business. This is awesome. So that was kind of a no-brainer for me, which it's not necessarily a no-brainer for everyone, but that's how it worked for me.
Yeah. So for those that might not know what tech sales might be, what was that like aha moment for you that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, the realization, if anyone who's in here is in any kind of sales right now, where they're selling to consumers, a lot of times you feel like you have to shove your product down someone's throat, and you're being forced to by your company or by your manager. And that's the complete opposite of what working in tech sales is like. And so that gave me an appeal because I knew that you could sell to someone in a way that you didn't need to sell, like um, selling someone who didn't need something, for example, right? Um, you know, trying to sell you Melvin, oh, here, you need a glass. You need this glass. This glass is the best glass ever. You have to have it, when it might not be the best glass ever. I'm just trying to sell it to you because it's what I'm being told to do, right? Whereas in tech sales, you're really uncovering problems that companies are facing right now. So say, for example, companies are having a hard time meeting virtually right now, right? So a perfect tech sales representative to be contacting an owner of a business in tech sales would be a Zoom, someone who works for Zoom, you know, and then saying, hey, this is how I'm going to sell to you. You know, is this going to be a good fit? What problems are you experiencing? You know, okay, hey, this makes sense. So let's take the conversation even further and have another call. And it's not just that one call kind of shove it down your throat, close. You get to really see if it's going to be a good fit and make sense long term for the person and for the company, which that just made me feel better as a person morally, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's kind of like you're just identifying problems, honestly, and you're kind of just finding a way to really communicate the value prop and just get someone on board. You're really bringing them value, and it just seems a lot less slimy as
Yeah,
what you would find within sorts of like boiler room type of.
absolutely.
Actually,
I'm proud to tell people that I'm a salesperson now, right? Rather than, oh yeah, I do sales, you know, I cold call people on the phone. You know, that's something I was kind of didn't really want to share with people because of the type of work that I did.
right. And so, what about your experience specifically at Prehired? So, do you mind walking us through a bit of your experience in terms of what does the program look like? How is it structured? And then what mostly
Yeah.
did you kind of benefit from?
Yeah, so what I mostly benefited from personally is the course content itself. So that's just consuming the content to learn the tools, like the Salesforce, Zoom, you know, Gmail, all those, learning the tools, the skills, the sales psychology, how to negotiate, and then the workflows of how to put that into a daily practice that you can repeat every day and then drive results every single day, right? So that really helped me because I didn't have that process built out for me in my current role. I kind of just took calls and made as many calls as I could every day and sold as many deals as I could every day. I didn't have like a really built out process to follow. And I wasn't using as many tools before as well. But that's for me personally, but what the program actually also gives members as well is you get the course content, but it's actually a lifetime membership. So it's not just the course that you're getting with the membership and pre-ad, you actually get the mentorship as well. So you have two types of mentors. You're gonna have a mentor who's gonna help you through that coursework, who's gonna walk with you through that whole process of consuming the content. And then once you get what we call coursework approved, meaning that you graduate onto your next, track, basically, would be what they call the career search process. That's where you take all these things that you've learned with your mentor and put it into practice, going after hiring managers to get hired at a tech company, right? And then you'll actually have a new career search mentor who actually walks through that process with you. So you get exposure to not only the two live mentors, right, but we actually have assistant positions of other folks who have gone through the program who are working for us as kind of a support in a part-time role, who also meet with members on the side and also run through them with cold calling practice, interview preps, and things like that. So they have basically 24/7 support anytime they need help with something.
Yeah. And so you mentioned mentorship in terms of both the actual consuming of the content and then secondly, actually landing the job.
Yep.
What about pre-hired and their content actually kind of does both in one in terms of their transferable skills to actually landing the job?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for anyone who doesn't know this yet, which is once you start getting into a tech company, you'll understand this, is that there is a similar process, a similar sales process that all tech companies run through. They have what they call a discovery call, right? Then they'll, just to figure out if it's a good fit, they'll have a demonstration, and then they'll have more of a scoping call and then a closing call. So they'll have multiple calls there. They follow that same sales process. And so that's the same with a job interview. If you're going to look for a job, you're going to discover if it's a good company for you to work at. You're going to see if you like the culture. You're going to read reviews, right? But also, you're going to get on a call with a recruiter. You're going to get on a call maybe with a manager, a hiring manager, right? And so you're running that discovery through that interview process. And so we teach you guys to deploy the sales process that tech companies use in your interview outreach. And so you're cold calling hiring managers just like you would cold call someone in a position as a tech salesperson. You're emailing hiring managers just like you would, and you're hitting them up on LinkedIn. And this is what they call either multi-channel or omni-channel outreach, which is a strategy that a lot of business-to-business tech companies use today. And so not just only cold calling and not just emailing someone, but using this multi or omni-channel approach so you can get a hold of someone and meet them where they're at. Sometimes some people are more on LinkedIn. Sometimes more people are in their inbox. Sometimes more people are on their phone waiting for a call. And so we teach you that strategy to execute in your interview process, which leads right over to the process as a tech sales rep as well.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I actually do have a couple of other questions that I want to dig into. But before I do that, I want to make sure that people that are on this call are really leveraging Isaiah's time here. He's here as a resource to answer any of your questions about tech sales, pre-hired, his experiences. So feel free to go ahead and actually unmute yourselves, ask away, or drop them in the chat. But if no one unmutes themselves, I assume that everyone's kind of enjoying this conversation. So I'll actually continue. All right. So any questions currently? Okay. Cool. So Isaiah, Daniel, was that you? Did you have a question there, or did you just want to say hello? No.
Oh no, I just joined late. Hello.
Okay. Cool. Thanks for joining us. So Isaiah, one thing that I also definitely want to touch on is from the people that I've talked to that go on to learning sales, right? There's a certain level of grit and at the end of the day, the type of energy and time that you just put into something in order to come out with the results that you're looking for. So in your life, there are certain things that you've actually had to overcome, and you have some obstacles that maybe you'd like to share tonight with some of the people. And what I'd like to actually kind of touch on is what your take on in terms of belief in oneself and kind of really just putting in that work and kind of how does that transfer into a career in sales?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I gave you guys a pretty good overview of my career, which is college, this, blah, blah, blah. Sounds like it's a pretty buttoned up life. But to be honest with you guys, I've had a pretty harsh upbringing. My mom was heavily addicted to drugs when I grew up, and I was in and out of foster care my entire life. So that was something that I was still I deal with to this day, kind of in therapy and stuff like that. So have a lot of stuff really that I can't even remember, right? Because I kind of shut it out. And so just working through therapy, trying to uncover all that pain that I went through, right? And so foster care was really hard, but somehow there's a miracle. I got adopted as a teenager, which never happens. And so I really chalk that up to a miracle because you never hear of people getting adopted when they're teenagers. And so I was really lucky to have that. And so I struggled really my entire life kind of with, who I was if I was good enough, because I would bounce from foster care to foster care. I actually even lived with my aunt and uncle for a long time, with my biological aunt and uncle, who always told me that they weren't going to keep me, that they didn't want me, and all these things that are very damaging for a young person to hear. And so I just had a lot of psychological, emotional, mental struggles that I had to go through. So obviously, as I'm trying to look for a new career, I don't feel like I'm good enough. I don't feel, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional, but I don't even feel like I'm worthy sometimes, right? And so, sorry guys. And so that was really hard for me, and still is hard for me today to feel like I'm worthy of what I get. And so, as you can tell right now, and so I think that believing, that I have something that's out there for me, that I'm connected to a higher purpose too. I do believe that there is a God, whatever you believe that is. I believe that there's a higher power, whether that's we're all God, or whether that's you believe in an energy, whatever you believe. I think that there's something that's you need to connect to in a higher way. And that's what drives me, is knowing that, if I can overcome all this crap, man, then I can just speak life into other people, and I can help them get through that too. And that's what all of you guys have empowered into as well.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And for anyone seriously considering pre-hired, this is going to be the guy that's really trying to make your experience even better. So I have nothing but respect for you, Isaiah, and a lot of the things that you said, not just on this call, but previously. There's just a lot in there in being able to teach people, right? And in terms of any sort of skill acquisition, there are there are going to be some layers of that onion that you'll have to peel back and really ask yourself, just to get and move effectively towards the goals in the life and that you want to live. And so really, really love that so much. I'm wondering, because one of the things that you just mentioned there as well is, because you've gone through so many tough things, right? You're actually able to put things into perspective as you go and try to build something that you've never built before, or take on challenges or responsibilities that you've never built before. How has that kind of reflected in your life, and how can people kind of leverage their experiences to do that for themselves?
I realized that trauma, for anyone who's ever endured any kind of trauma in your life, trauma makes you what they call hyper vigilant. And so because I'm hyper vigilant, I'm able to see a lot of things that other people aren't able to see, because I'm thinking 5 or 6 steps ahead of everyone else. Because, I've had terrible things happen to me. I've been chained to a bed, been locked in an attic, terrible traumatic things. So even when I'm in a room, even to this day, I'm looking at exits. Where can I get out? Things like that, normal people necessarily, didn't have necessarily super traumatic things happen to them. They might not think that way. right? And so you can use that to your power, right? And so I am able to see flaws in operational things within any company that I talk to, right? I've talked to tons of CEOs. I've talked to tons of VPs of sales. I help pre-hire. I do it with pre-hire. I help SDR managers, sales development managers. That's the type of people who train at pre-hire. But I help them just see holes in their processes because of that hypervigilance that I have. That's for me. That's not, everyone has their own thing that will help them. But for me, that's what's helped me.
Yeah, and there was this book that I mentioned the other day. It's David Goggins, and he has a metaphor that's called reaching into your cookie jar. So it's essentially just leveraging the things that you've gone through in your life and really remembering those things and kind of using them to propel you forward. The reason
I'll speak on that too.
Yeah.
I remember us talking about that, guys. Me and him were just shooting the breeze one day. That the fact that I can go through all of that in my life, there's not much harder stuff that I'm going to go through in my life that's ahead of me, right? If I can get through that, it's not going to be, I have, I hear of, in my church, I go to church, but like, women who are domestically abused, right? And that's something that I understand being abused, but like that's something that they're going to go through. That's going to be one of the hardest things that they have to go through, right? I have friends that are addicted to drugs, right? And that's going to be one of the hardest things that they have to go through. But if they can come out on the other side, which I have seen many friends come out on the other side, they live much better lives once they get out through that trial period, whatever they're going through. So you could be going through so many things right now, but on the other end, there's that light basically. And you don't even have to be going through something right now. You can look at something that happened to you 10 years ago, right? You could be clean, so maybe you're an alcoholic 10 years ago and you're like, man, I haven't really thought about that because I don't struggle with it as much anymore, but I struggled with that back then. That was really hard. This isn't as hard as that.
Yeah, and so I guess to wrap that up into the pre-hired conversation as well is, now that you're, director of member success, how does that kind of dictate how you foresee this, permeating throughout your students' lives?
Yeah, so one of the things that I value the most is the member experience. So making sure that they feel like they have the support that they need, because I didn't my whole life, right? And so to make sure that if someone's ever feeling depressed because they got passed over for a job, that they have tons of people that they can reach out to at pre-hire, right? That's why we have cohorts, and we put those members in a cohort in a Slack group and we tell them to celebrate the wins and the losses, right? And so that's something that I've implemented to make sure that anyone who's coming into the community will have more than one person who's going to be on your side and make sure that you can do this. And if you can't do it, it's because you gave up on yourself,
Yeah, and that's going to be that's actually rather difficult for some people to come to the realization to.
Yeah.
It's a lot of mental games sometimes, and I think that sales, for sure, sometimes you can feel defeated, you get rejected left and right, and it really does take like the building up of certain type of mentality.
Absolutely. I think that, for example, whatever someone's going through in life, me personally, just getting rejected by my birth parents and just never really having that satisfaction. That rejection is a lot more difficult than hearing someone tell me, no, I'm not interested, on a phone call, right? And so I'll continue to, I don't want to belabor the point, but the rejection it's huge in sales, but like Melvin was talking about, that cookie jar, if you have that there for you, then that it doesn't really mean anything. You can like, yeah, this is nothing, and you can laugh about it a lot of times. So I used to laugh about a lot of my sales calls because I just thought it was fun.
Yeah, and Sorry, I think I'm just going to just add another additional comment onto that because I just feel that it's so important for some people to kind of adopt because it's really going to be helpful in
Yeah.
terms of seeing failures as just learning, right? And you can I like to make the analogy of the machine learning algorithm. So the machine learning algorithm,
Yeah.
it just taking data in and it's just getting better over time. It's not feeling bad about itself. It's just getting better each time that it messes up in one way or another. So within any sort of endeavor, in terms of new skills that you're acquiring, a job that you're trying to get, a person that you're trying to reach, it will happen on a long enough period of time. You just got to keep at it. And it's just really adopting the fact that the L's are just as good as the W's sometimes.
Absolutely. I think
Yeah,
that one of the things I've learned from successful people is that your failures, or sometimes you learn more lessons from your failures than your successes.
yeah, and I think that all of these things are really important, especially in tech sales, and even with like programming sometimes too. On some of these calls that I have, you have a screen that'll like yell at you in the face, or you're just having your messages like never being responded to, or even sometimes like some people just respond with some pretty nasty comments, but you got to kind of keep the metaphorical boat or the sails pointing. So yeah, I'm absolutely loving this conversation. So we do have another portion that's going to be online in terms of just being able to capture a lot of the value that we're sharing here, so that some of the Career Karma community members that weren't able to make this particular call or watch the recording are able to kind of just capture some of the answers that you so graciously left. Before I do that, if anyone here has any last questions, now would be a great time to ask. But before I ask my last question to sort of close things off here, Isaiah, where can people find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I would say that if you message me on LinkedIn, you'll definitely hear back from me. That's the easiest place.
Okay. So my question
I'll
to
drop
you,
it. I'll
Isaiah,
drop my LinkedIn in the chat too.
yeah, go for it. I actually give you a second there. So for those of you that are on the call currently, we want to also make sure that you all are leveraging the Career Karma resource as effectively as you can. So if you didn't know, if no one here has actually used the discussion feature yet, you're actually able to submit questions, and that's where we're actually going to be heading right after this to answer questions that are coming in live on Career Karma. And so we'll actually be answering those. The really great part about that is we have people from all sorts of walks of life. Isaiah has an incredible story. He's gone through pre-hired and he has like the experience to kind of back that up and really share with you all the value that he's learned. So definitely ask him questions. You can find him on Career Karma. And we have a ton more people there as well, answering questions on behalf of pre-hired or any other career questions that you have. I know some of the things that we even talked about were outside of the scope of even tech sales, but they're really transferable things that are really awesome to walk away with. So Isaiah, my last question to you is so that the people that are on this call don't just listen to the words that you say, but they're actually able to implement it into their lives.
Yeah.
So what is one thing that you think people can do this week that'll help them move closer towards their goal of breaking into tech?
That's a great question. So I think that the best thing that you can do is determine if you're interested in both tech sales and coding. You reach out to both types of people, but if you know which one you're really interested in, reach out to someone who's already doing that job on LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn, create a LinkedIn, and then find someone on LinkedIn who's already doing the job that you're interested in, and just ask them questions. And if you're bold enough, I would even set up a time to get on Zoom with them, because a lot of people in tech are really willing to give back, to help people break into tech, and they're really willing to help people, who just are asking questions about their company, who are interested in the positions and stuff like that. Because a lot of times too, they get bonuses to get people hired into their company. So if you're a good fit, hey, they might get $1,000 for getting you hired to their company. So it could work out that well for them too. But that's what I would say to do. And if you don't know how to do that, you have my LinkedIn now. and then you can reach out to me and ask me how you can do it, and I can help. I'll make a video for you, or I'll have one of my guys, I'll make a quick video for you and help you out.
Absolutely love that. I mean, you're digging at the point where it's, if you have a goal, right, you want to find an effective strategy to get there. And the best people to ask for advice are the people that have seen success in the thing that you want to see. So
if you've never heard this before, the best piece of advice I've ever been given my entire life is just a quote from a guy named Tony Robbins. It's that success leaves clues, meaning you don't have to go pave your own way. Success leaves clues. So if you just go find those people that are successful, there's clues in their path that can help you be successful too.
All right, Isaiah, really appreciate you spending some time with me here. And for those of you that are on the call, you just invested 30 minutes of your life really towards your future, towards building the life that you want to live. I really applaud that. I know you can spend 30 minutes doing all sorts of different things, but you spent it towards building your life. So keep doing that. Ask people questions, especially people that have seen success in the thing that you want to achieve. Success leaves clues. Isaiah is here as a resource for you all. Reach out to him, make those connections. So yeah, we'll actually be heading over to Career Karma discussions, and Isaiah, I'll actually send you a link here that we can actually jump on right after, so I can continue talking to you in just a sec. Leroy, you can actually email me at melvin@careerkarma.com, and I'll send you the recording right after it's sent. All right.
Awesome.
So in 1 second, I'll actually just, sorry.